This is Cast of Wonders, the young adult fiction podcast featuring stories of the fantastic. Welcome. Episode 159 for March 15th, 2015. Our story for you this week is There Are No Marshmallows in Camelot by Christian McKay Heidecker, which we're pleased to bring you as a Cast of Wonders original. Christian's work has appeared in Spine Tinglers, Solar Worm, and two separate publications called defenestration, a word that implies throwing something out the window, which Christian hopes doesn't mean anything about his particular future. His book, The King of Arcadia, will be published by Simon & Schuster in the summer of 2016. It's a young adult novel about a kid who's committed to video game rehab, and with a description like that, is already on my wish list. These days, Christian dreams of foxes, and sometimes he gets the funny sensation that they're dreaming of him. You can find more of his work on his website, foxingbureau.com. It's still under construction, he says, because foxes love digging things up. And now we've a tale to tell. There Are No Marshmallows in Camelot by Christian McKay Heidecker. Letitia Andrews saw the wizard hat on a Monday morning at 7:06 a.m. She was eating Lucky Charms in the kitchen nook. The hat was gray and tattered and sat in the window of her plastic princess house, which was in the backyard. "Mom!" she screamed down the hallway. "Do I have a wizard hat?" "Don't think so, unless Uncle Louis." "Does Jakey?" "Honey, I don't know. I'm working." Jake, Tisa's baby brother, did not have a wizard's hat. She was 96.2% sure of that. At least, not one so pointy and floppy and not covered in glitter like the ones from Toys R Us. Even though Tisa had never seen one before, she knew the hat that currently sat in her princess house was a real wizard hat. And that meant things. Tease took 2 more bites of cereal and thought things through. Then, leaving her first ever unfinished bowl of cereal, she went to her room. She rustled through her toy chest and found her doll that was only a head because Ruxin had buried the rest of its body in bits around the yard. The doll head wasn't totally dead, though. When Tease turned it upside down and then right side up again, it still said, "Mama." Tease returned to the kitchen and grabbed the small stool she used for getting plates and cups from the cupboard. Stool in hands and doll head in pocket, she went into the backyard to her princess house. She tilted the stool, jamming the top beneath the door handle so the door couldn't open. Then she slinked around to the side window where she found a frog, a centipede, and a ladybug sitting perfectly still side by side on a stone. It appeared as if they were staring up through the window at the hat. Tease looked above the princess house's roof and discovered 4 chickadees perched on a tree branch, twitching their tiny heads, also towards the hat. She stuck the doll's head on her index finger and held it up to the window. She knew perfectly well the doll couldn't speak, but she held on to a faint bit of hope that if there was danger, the doll would squeak out a warning or at least wiggle her finger a bit. The doll stared into the window. It said nothing. Tease hopped up on her knees and 1, 2, 3 peeked through the window herself. The princess house was filled with smoke. She could smell it coming through the cracks, like sighing pines. It was hard to see at first, but then a figure formed out of the smoke. Tease collapsed to the grass, heart pounding. It was as she suspected. There was a wizard connected to that wizard's hat. She peeked again. Yup, wizard all right. Beneath his tattered hat, he wore lint-colored robes and a long beard the color of the basement with the lights off. He puffed at a gnarled pipe with his eyes closed. A pale staff leaned against the door. Of course, anyone can dress like a wizard. Tease decided to test him. She leapt up, slammed both palms against the window, and shouted, "Boo!" The wizard opened his eyes and looked on with amused eyebrows. That proved it. You can rarely surprise a wizard. "Tell me how to be a wizard or I won't let you out," was the first thing Tease said. The wizard addressed her with the patience of mushrooms. "Aren't you going to ask why I'm in your He looked around the interior. Oversized dollhouse? I don't care, Tease said. Her fists rested against the pane. I just want to know how. The wizard leaned forward and tried the door handle. The door strained, but the stool held it shut. He picked up his staff and pointed it at the handle. Tease covered her ears, but kept her eyes wide open. She'd never seen magic before. Nothing came out of the staff. No pops, no sparks, no flames. The wizard looked concerned. What year is this? He demanded. What country? 2015, Tease said. America. You do not have much belief in 2015 in America. Your magic is dried up. Would you kindly stand back, please? Tease took 2 giant steps away from the princess house. The wizard tried to ram the butt of his staff through the window. The pane bent and wobbled, but didn't break. My dad put in shatterproof glass so Jakey won't cut his fingers. Teesy, her mom called from the house. You gotta be at the stop in 10 minutes. Coming, Tease answered. She took 2 giant steps back to the princess house's window, so her breath fogged the glass. She'd done it. She'd really done it. She'd caught a wizard easy as a firefly in a bottle, and she hadn't even meant to. Now tell me how, she said. The wizard, bemused, sat on the tea table. Not getting yourself caught in a little girl's house is a good start. Tease rolled her eyes. No, something for reals. The wizard opened his palms to her like he was serious. Tease crossed her arms. Fine, how'd you get inside there? I was in a duel with the dark witch Morgana. She distracted me with the glamour, and I let my guard down, giving her an opportunity to banish me here. My mom reads glamour, Tease said. Didn't seem like something wizards would read, let alone get distracted by. A little bell rang inside her head. Morgana? I heard that name before. What's your name? My name is Merlin Ambrosius. Tease made the wrong sound from game shows. Merlin is an old man with white hair and a snout that's gnarly, like this. She held up her fingers and crooked them. My dad read me his stories. It has pictures. It's a comfort to know that I survived this battle with Morgana and live into my elderly years where my life's work will be renowned. But you have me at a disadvantage. Whom do I have the pleasure of being captured by? Letitia Andrews. She pressed her nose against the pane so it squished. Tease. Miss Andrews, when I return to my time, I shall be sure to tell thy name to Morgana, so she may tremble at the maiden who finally bested me. Now, if you would be so kind. With his staff, he rapped twice on the door. Merlin Ambrosius, Tease thought out loud. Did you get to make up your own name when you got your wizard's... She tried to think of what someone would get once they became a wizard. A staff? A hat? A beard? She hoped not. Please, Merlin said. I am currently losing a battle being fought many millennia ago. How many times do I gotta ask? Tease said, and then banged her forehead against the window for every word. How do I be a wizard? Merlin crossed his arms over each other, so his staff vanished in the folds of his robes. A fair request, considering the circumstances. I am trespassing on your kingdom, after all. He gazed through the window at the sun coming up over the roof line of Tease's house. He looked very striking. Tease tried to take on her own wizardly posture while she listened. I suppose it is as simple as this, Merlin said. Find a place where magic flows as easily as water down a hill. Plant yourself there, and let your mind be silent until the magic courses through you. He ended with a nod. That's it? That's it. Letitia! Her mother shouted. The bus is going to be here in 7 minutes. Come clean your bowl. Coming! Tease shouted back at the house, then turned back to Merlin. Why aren't more people wizards then? People are afraid to believe something so powerful could be so simple, or so boring. The wizard stood, bent so his hat didn't scrunch on the ceiling, and gestured towards the door. Tease frowned. Teach me some magic, too. Merlin slumped back onto the tea table. I thought we had an arrangement. We did, but then I thought about it some more. A good wizard always keeps her word. Tease shrugged. I'm not a wizard yet. Can you make it so my backpack will float so I don't have to carry it? Or make broomsticks stand up alive and clean by dancing? Or can you make my homework do itself? I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Letitia Andrews, but wizards do their homework. More than most people, in fact. Oh. Tease looked into the wizard's gray swirl eyes and then at his little winged, slimy, crawly visitors. I still want to be one. The wizard Merlin grumbled. I suppose I could teach you one harmless spell, one that doesn't require too much belief. He looked around at the princess house. What if I were to show you how to make green things appear pink, and pink things appear the color of cockroaches? Tease let her head rock shoulder to shoulder in a maybe sort of way. Merlin thought a moment, and then reached into his robes and brought out a jar that was filled with what looked like black ink and water. The darkness didn't slosh so much as slither, like an eel searching for an exit. I could give you a jar of shadows that will make your enemies see the dark side of the moon. Tease shuddered away a chill. What else? What if I taught you a word that summons a bit of warmth? Merlin opened his mouth and made a small noise like a crackling log. What would I use that for? It has its uses. To toast a mushroom, perhaps. Or a marshmallow? Tease was always burning her marshmallows. I don't know what that is, Merlin said. Tease's mouth fell open and she slapped her forehead. What? Please, Miss Andrews, I must return to my time. You never ate a marshmallow before? It's like eating a cloud made of sugar magic. You have to try one. I am quite content, thank you. The fruits of foreign lands can wait in times of great distress. It's not a fruit. I'm going to go get one. Merlin thudded his staff on the floor. My ward is in terrible danger without my protection. Ward. That one took Tease a moment. Arthur? Yes, Arthur. He'll be okay. I know how the stories end. Stories can change, Miss Andrews. Nope, they're shut up in a book, she said, shuffling backwards. He's fine. He's going to be king. Please. Merlin tried to stop her. Be right back. Tease ran into her house. The stool was still outside, blocking the door to the princess' house, keeping her wizard trapped. So she turned a garbage can upside down to reach the cupboard. She had the bag of fluffy marshmallows in hand when her mom walked in. Her mom looked at the upside-down can and the puddle of brown seeping out. TC, her mom said in a voice that made Tease feel like she was falling. Did you empty that trash before you turned it upside down? Uh-oh. Off, her mom said. Tease jumped down with the bag of marshmallows. She was about to offer help when her mom said, I got it. Go get your backpack. You need to be outside in 2 minutes. Tease almost went back out the sliding door, but then remembered something. She ran to her room and grabbed her copy of The Legend of King Arthur. When she picked it up, she let out a little shriek. There were ants crawling on the shelf beneath. Not ants. Words. They spilled out of the book like black pepper. Tease cupped her hand underneath and tried to scoop the words back onto the blank pages, but they wouldn't stick. She closed the book and watched as the title dissolved into cloudy weather patterns on the cover. A small wind whistled through her room. A strange feeling came over her then. It felt as if all her bravery and heroics were scrambling out of her brain as quickly as the words off the page. Like the legends of King Arthur and his knights of the Round Table were turning to shadows that leaped out of her ears. She got the feeling she got when she was 4 and her parents told her there wasn't enough oxygen in the jar where she kept the lizard she'd caught. Oh, crap, Tease said. She docked the book and sprinted out of the room, down the hallway, past her hunched mother and outside. Kicking the stool away, she flung open the door to the princess' house. Hello, Merlin said, annoyed, leaning against his staff. Hi, Tease said. She decided not to tell him that his story was turning into ants. She waved away pipe smoke and undid the rubber band on the marshmallow bag. She held one up. Do that thing, she said, and tried to mimic the crackling sound he had made earlier. She coughed up a little phlegm onto the marshmallow. Ew, sorry. She took out a fresh one for Merlin. Merlin took the marshmallow and squished it between his long fingers. His eyebrows looked irritated, then helpless, and then a little curious. He opened his mouth, and again his throat crackled like fire. The marshmallow toasted, and the princess house filled with a golden brown smell. "Try it," Tease whispered. Merlin ate the marshmallow. His eyebrows made a sort of deflated teepee shape, as if the marshmallow had melted all the mad right out of him. Then he made a mistake most people who eat marshmallows make. "This is delicious? Daffo Baba." "Don't talk. You can't sound like a wizard when you talk like that." "Letitia Andrews!" Her mom's voice was so sudden and so close, it made Tease feel like she'd fallen off a cliff. She barely had time to turn around before her mom was pulling her by the arm back towards the house. "You missed the bus. Now I'll have to drive you." Tease jostled, staring back over her shoulder. The door was open. The princess house was empty. The bugs were just bugs, and the chickadees looked as confused as always. "Mom, you made me lose Merlin." "You are going to make me lose my job. Now wipe that grump off your face." Tease couldn't, try as she might. Years later, Letitia had almost entirely forgotten about catching Merlin in her princess house. It was like a pleasant dream she'd forgotten to write down. At first, she had spent some time in places that felt magic-y, like Chuck E. Cheese sitting in the ball pit, waiting and waiting for wizardness to trickle into her. But no matter how long she sat, bugs and birds never gave her the time of day, and eventually she got bored and gave up and played skee-ball. Tease kept on forgetting and forgetting that it ever happened at all, until her class read The Legend of King Arthur. "And what did Merlin use to distract Morgana?" Mr. Henderson asked the class. "Tim? Marshmallows?" Tease's head shot up from her desk. She threw her hand into the air. Me, I did it. "Tease," the teacher said, "what have we said about screaming out in the middle of class?" "This is important," Tease said. "A long time ago, I caught Merlin in my princess house, and I introduced him to marshmallows, even though he didn't teach me any magic. And then he took the marshmallow back to King Arthur's time to distract Morgana like an issue of Glamour, which means I kind of saved the day, even though it was already saved another way. And if you don't believe me, then how come marshmallows have never existed in Camelot before now?" Mr. Henderson stared at her for a moment. "Okay," and went back to writing on the whiteboard. Tease looked around the room, hoping someone in her class would believe her. Summer Wilson was looking at her in that way she did not like. Tease leaned towards her. "You're just lucky Merlin didn't teach me any magic, or else I'd turn your pink notebook into cockroach legs, Summer Wilson." "Tease," Mr. Henderson said. "Corner, now." Tease rolled her eyes and got out of her chair and went and sat in the corner, arms crossed, bottom lip out. She had changed the course of history. She had made the ants word scrabble back onto the page in a different order, plus marshmallows. She stared out the window and wondered if having a story be kind of about her was better than being a wizard. No, it definitely was not. She imagined her bag of marshmallows whipping 1,000 years back in time to a place that didn't even exist and helping defeat an evil witch before Merlin brought them to King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. They gave me bravery, and I gave them marshmallows, she thought, and smiled. Tease just hoped the marshmallows hadn't gone stale by the time they got to King Arthur's court. I get thank you notes for my story projections. It's true and weird, but I'm very proud of them. Many venues send very generic rejections to an author's work. Usually a few lines like, "This piece doesn't meet their needs," or "isn't right for the current publishing market." That's efficient when you're facing hundreds of submissions a month, sure, but useful? Not so much, and limiting. Each venue has their own parameters, which you should always check in their submission guidelines before sending a story, and a sweet spot that a particular submission needs to hit. But when I see a story that's perfect for another venue, I'll recommend the author submits their work there, kind of more like an agent than an editor. Or maybe a story just needs a few small tweaks to make it really shine. Take this story, for example. When originally submitted in late 2013, Christian's tale was twice the length and included a whole other thread about Letitia looking for magic after Merlin left. Interesting? Yes, but it detracted from the nugget of wonder, what a young girl would do if she had a wizard caught in her playhouse. That, to me, was the essence of the story. Being an editor is more than just a binary thumbs up or thumbs down. It's about helping writers grow, develop, and succeed. I'm always sad when a wonderful story doesn't match the sense of wonder that we seek or fit our guidelines in some other particular way. But hearing it find another home, little compares. Except maybe those thank you notes. Join us next week for The Haunted Jalopy Races by Matthew Bernardo. If you support diversity in audio fiction, there's a great new podcast coming that I want to bring to your attention. Glittership is an LGBTQ science fiction and fantasy podcast kickstarting now. Hosted by Kefi R.M. Curley from Shimmer Magazine, this twice a month, or maybe even more depending on stretch goals, podcast will feature LGBTQ characters or explore their issues. The podcast is now also open for reprint submissions, and we'll put a link to their Kickstarter in the show notes. If you've enjoyed this episode, then please lend a hand in supporting podcast fiction. Leave us a review on iTunes or our Facebook page, share the episode with others, or have a chat with us on Twitter. We're at Cast of Wonders. And please consider making a donation to the show using the PayPal link available on our site. You can make a one-off payment, or better yet, sign up for a monthly subscription. Your donations help pay our authors and keep our servers running so we can bring you the best in YA audio fiction week after week. Every little bit helps, and you have our heartfelt thanks. Cast of Wonders is a production of Wolfsbane Publishing and is brought to you by the creative team of Barry J. Northern, our publisher and artist, Alan Sale, our audio producer, Jeff Height, our assistant editor and head slush reader, and I remain, as always, your humble editor and host, Marguerite Kenner. Our episodes are released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. Share it all you like, but don't change it or sell it. Our theme, Appeal to Heavens, is by Alexi Nov from musicalley.com. Thanks for listening.